Okie dokie. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this reconvened annual general meeting. And my name's Connor, and I am the union chair, and I will be chairing this meeting tonight. And I will also be chairing the union executive meeting, which will follow after the annual student members meeting. So to start off with, I'll just go through our accessibility statement that should be on the screen now. So I'll just read it for you. So at Kent Union events, we want our members to feel safe, comfortable, and able to participate. We take the issue of equal opportunities very seriously. At all our events, we aim to create an environment that is accessible to everyone and one that is free from discrimination and prejudice. To achieve this, we ask that every participant shows respect to others. This includes listening to other people's points of view and using appropriate and respectful language at all times. This is not about being politically correct. It's about ensuring everyone feels able to participate. Next slide, please. So sexist, racist, homophobic, or disablist comments are definitely not allowed, even if you don't mean to offend. Healthy debate plays an important part in many Kent Union events, but it is possible for debate to get out of hand. No matter how passionately you feel there is never an excuse for an argument or to get personal, abusive, or aggressive. It is important that you feel able to critically appraise the work of Kent Union. However, because staff cannot participate in the democracy of Kent Union, you should not hold them to account. You should hold the officers you elect to account. You should avoid direct criticism of Kent Union staff and never name individuals or groups of staff in public. If you have a criticism or praise of Kent Union's work or of a staff member, it should be addressed to the relevant full-time Kent Union officer. Brilliant. Next slide, please. And just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be published on the Kent Union website after. If you have any queries about this, please feel free to pop them into the chat and they'll be picked up by a staff member. And just as a reminder, the absolute guillotine for this meeting will be 8 o'clock, and this will include the union executive meeting. Next slide, please. So I'll now move to introduce our Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees has the ultimate responsibility for directing the affairs of Kent Union, ensuring it is solvent, well run, and delivering on its objectives, as detailed in the Constitution. The board is made up of 13 trustees. This includes 5 sabbatical officers, 4 student trustees, and 4 external trustees. And I'm very pleased to welcome those who have joined us tonight. So I'll go through the slide and just have everyone to introduce themselves. So I'll start off with Aisha.
Hi, my name is Aisha Dosanjh. I'm the Acting President and Vice President of Welfare and Community, and I'm an Officer Trustee.
Thank you, Aisha. Joe?
I'm not sure I can see Joe on the list, so we can move on, Connor, if you like.
Okay, Mohammed?
Hi everyone, I'm Mohammed Abdullah and I'm one of the trustees.
Thank you, Mohammed. Peter?
Hello, I'm Peter Gingell. I'm an external trustee.
Thank you, Peter. Kyla?
Hi, I'm Kyla. I'm a PhD in religious studies and I am a student trustee.
Thanks, Kyla. Pat?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Patrick. I'm VP Postgraduate Experience and I'm an Officer Trustee.
Thank you. And Stephen?
Okay, I can't see Stephen. Yes, we'll move on to the next one.
Esther?
Hi everyone, I'm Esther, PGR Research and Student Trustee.
Thank you, Esther. Aldo?
Hello, I'm Aldo Manella, and there's a really loud car outside, so apologies, but I am your VPSE.
Thank you, Aldo. Can't hear it. John? Oh, John, I think you're on mute.
Hi, I'm John Patterson. I'm an external trustee.
Thank you, John. Ahmed?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mohammed Ibrahim, Pol-IR student and student trustee as well.
Thank you. And last but by no means least, Vicky.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Vicky Saywood-Reid. I'm Vice President Academic Experience and a Officer Trustee.
Thank you very much. So those are your trustees, and they will be available throughout the meeting in order to answer your questions. I'll now move on to the agenda for this evening. We'll start off with housekeeping and a currency check. We'll then go to a declaration of interest. We'll then have an approval of the minutes of last annual general meeting. We'll then have a report from the acting chair of the Board of Trustees, an approval of the external affiliations, and finally open questions to your trustees. Next slide, please. So in order for this meeting to go ahead, there must be 25 voting members of Kent Union in the room, as per recent changes to the bylaws. This sets out that only in exceptional circumstances of a global pandemic, a reduced quorancy will be allowed in the event of having to reconvene a meeting due to not achieving quorum. So we'll now double check that we are at quorum.
Right, so I'm counting 31. So Carly, I don't know if you're getting the same, but that's what I've got.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Brilliant. So as from Teams, as we're over 25, the meeting is now in session. Brilliant. Next slide, please. Now we'll move on to our declaration of interests. In a moment, I'm going to ask if there are any members present who wish to declare an interest, but I will explain what this means first. A declaration of interest is where somebody presents wishes to claim to the room that they have some level of involvement in something that could cause a conflict in their ability to participate in this meeting. For example, this might be if a member owned a business that in some way acted as a competitor to one of the services that Kent Union runs. The person could be biased in their opinions of how the union should function, and so they would need to declare that to the room and make sure that everyone was aware. So I will now ask, do any members present wish to declare an interest in this meeting? If you could please click the show conversation button, the chat box will appear on the right where you can make your declaration. So I'll just give people a minute to declare anything in the chat. And okay, so I don't see any members have declared an interest, so I will move on. Next slide, please. We'll now move to an approval of the minutes of the last AGM. The minutes of the last meeting need to be rectified as a true and accurate record. The minutes are published on the website and the link is also in the chat box. A question should appear on the screen now. Please can you answer the question on the screen? Are student members content to approve the meetings of the last meeting on the 3rd of December 2019? Please vote yes or no. Have we got the results of the vote come through yet?
Yeah, so they're approved.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Fina. As the minutes have been approved, I'll now move on to the report from the Board of Trustees. Next slide, please. Organisations, including charities like Kent Union, are required by law to produce annual financial statements to give assurance to their stakeholders that the organisation is being run in a financially sustainable way and that they are reporting their financial transactions in a true and fair way. Kent Union's financial statements include the Trustees report, which explains things like what the union has done in the last year and what its plans are for the current year, and the numbers section, which shows where the union has generated its income and what it has spent it on. I will now ask the acting chair of the Board of Trustees, Aisha Dosanjh, to provide us with an overview. Aisha.
Thank you, Connor. Hi, I'm Aisha Dosanjh, the Acting President and Vice President Welfare and Community. The following slides provide oversight into the financial performance of Kent Union over the past academic year, 2019 to 20, and outline the adjustments we had to make in response to COVID-19, which has seriously affected the income we have received and therefore what we have been able to spend on the benefit of Kent Union members. Kent Union is a non-profit charity, and charities are formed for the benefit of its users, in this case, you, the members. So anything you buy from Kent Union, groceries in the co-op, drinks from the library cafe to event tickets such as the recent scare maze for Halloween, the aim is not to make profit, but to provide a service. Any surplus money made above the cost of supplying the goods is put back into the union to support our members in things like our food bank, the advice centre, or into our clubs and societies. The next slide, please. In the 2019 to 20 academic year, Kent Union raised a total of £11,752,049, which is a reduction of the £1,050,634 from 2018 to 19. £713,337 of this reduction can be accredited to the early closure of our licensed trade outlets, Woodies, the Library Cafe and the venue, as well as the cancellation of the summer ball due to the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions being implemented. However, despite the early closure, it should be noted that these outlets still managed up until March 2020 to raise £1,778,252, employing 122 students, putting £312,000 back into students' pockets. For the first time in its history, the summer ball sold out in less than 24 hours, which is a massive milestone for the event. Due to our long-term relationship with suppliers, our licensed trade team managed to keep losses down to an absolute minimum, and all ticket holders were offered a refund. Due to COVID-19, the nursery and job shop also had to close, accounting for a further reduction of £293,479 year on year, bringing the total income to £1,003,978. Despite the reduced operating time, Job Shop still signed 8,000 students to their mailing list and fulfilled 1,387 temporary assignments, again putting back into student pockets to the tune of £104,000. On a positive note, our co-op retail outlets stood strong throughout the pandemic, with the main Union Plaza co-op remaining open and providing an invaluable service to the students remaining on campus, as well as to the local community. Financially, our retail operations remain solid, generating £4,106,450, which is only £25,000 shy of the previous year's total, despite a downturn in the trade from students returning home early and university staff working from home. One of the biggest achievements of the year is the £711,000 raised by our student groups, £35,425 more than the previous year, with all funds going back into supporting our students and societies and teams' activities. Grant funding raised from the university for the 2019 to 2020 academic year accounted for £3,522,404, a decrease of minus £544,989. However, extra funds were allocated the previous year for the refurbishment of the Mandela Student Centre and the refit of the 2 co-ops, which explains the reduction. Although financial support has been available from the government throughout the pandemic, evident in the job retention scheme contribution of £523,270, this has not been enough to offset losses in revenue, so Kent Union has needed to draw £51,517 from its reserves. Can I have the next slide, please? £8,177,227 was the cost of operating our commercial operations. This includes Woody's Bar, the venue, co-op shops, library cafe, job shop, and the Oaks Nursery. The figure represents costs of stock, union staff, both career and student, utility bills, and other building and maintenance costs. £1,180,099 was allocated for campaigns and representing students, both nationally and locally, to improve student conditions and make their voice heard. £594,384 went towards running the student advice centres, servicing 3,790 cases throughout the year across Medway and Canterbury. £128,422 went into exceptional items relating to redundancy costs. The remaining £1,671,917 went back into our 60 sports clubs, 150 societies, 23 community action groups, and 3 student media groups, supporting them to carry out their functions and activities. Thank you, and back over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Asia. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, we're on the right side. So we'll now move to approve our external affiliations. Under the Articles of Association, also known as Constitution, the Union is required to report and gain approval of its members on an annual basis all current external affiliations, which is done at the student members meeting. An affiliation is connecting or associating with an organisation. An example of an affiliation is Kent Union being a member of NUS and Bucks. Kent Union affiliates with various organisations to further and to support the delivery of our charitable purpose, such as providing advice to our members on a range of issues, such as finance, housing and immigration. Please can you answer the question which will appear on the screen in a minute? Are student members content to approve the list of external affiliations in July 2021? Please answer yes or no now. Have we got the result of the vote yet?
Yeah, so overall they've been approved. 20 positives, 5 no. So overall approved.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fina. We'll now move on to open questions from the trustees in that case. So this part of the meeting will provide you with an opportunity to ask any questions you may have to our trustees. Please note that any questions to trustees must be relevant to the business of the board. For example, on any legal, financial, strategic or reputational matters. Before we take questions on Teams, we would like to first start with responding to some of the questions we've already received in advance on the Kent Union website. Due to time constraints, however, we will not have time to cover all of the questions in this meeting, but we will post responses on the government section on the Kent Union website. And to start us off with open questions, I'll go to Aldo first. So our first question is, will there be a real terms increase in funding available to student-run sports clubs in the 2019 to 2020 academic year, which didn't have any COVID? Many sports societies were unable to cover reasonable expenses, such as travel to Bucks fixtures across the country. How will this be changed in the coming year?
Hello. So Kent Union will continue to review the process in regard to funding and will take on board the feedback provided. However, we are currently unable to confirm the level of funding available to student groups for the next academic year. When collecting funding,
Go Kent!
When collecting funding, you really threw me off there. Kent Union's goal is to be fair as possible across all 250 plus student groups, and this does mean that we are not always able to fund all groups to the levels that they may desire. We understand that some expenses may be considered reasonable, such as for travelling or going to Bucks fixtures, and we do aim to accommodate such expenses where possible to support our student groups actively participating in competitions such as Bucks. However, this is not always possible, but we would like to see collaboratively with student groups on sourcing alternative funding solutions if necessary. Apologies, I've been in EG all day, so I've got my telephone voice.
It's all good, bro.
Thank you so much, Aldo. And could I just remind people to please keep themselves muted unless they're called upon to speak. Thank you.
Sorry,
so we'll now to the next question. That's all right. And our next question is to Aisha. So will we receive an update of the progress made in regards to private landlords and rent reductions?
Thank you. I've been working with the President of Christchurch Student Union and our respective universities to negotiate with landlords on the issue. We've issued a joint letter and we've spoken directly with landlords to support both landlords and students through individual negotiations. What we're trying to do is allow students to go to our advice centre if they are in need of particular support. But so far we have released a video to explain to students how this will be taking place. But what we've also done is allow students to use a template to get in touch with their landlords, and we are able to help facilitate students having their direct conversations with landlords. We understand that this is not an issue that there can be a blanket statement on, and we cannot force landlords to be flexible in tenancy agreements and rent. However, we want to try and facilitate a conversation where landlords are able to directly understand the experiences that students are having right now and the financial anxiety that we all have. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Aisha. Our next question is to Vicky. Vicky, will we be seeing any tuition fee reductions?
So the university released a statement a little over a month ago now, basically saying that they were not going to consider reducing tuition fees at that time. We obviously were disappointed on behalf of students. We know that there's been a lot of outrage about this, quite rightly so. So we asked the university to reconsider its stance and are continually pushing for them to do so. We've also asked them to publish a breakdown of where their fees go towards for 2019-2020 as well as 2020-2021. So last academic year as well as this academic year, sort of prove where the fees are actually going towards. We've also asked them in the meantime, until they can do the two previous asks, to improve the consistency of online learning, as well as to take into account our members' recommendations from this year, as well as going into next year. We've also asked them to join us in supporting the Students United Against Fees campaign. Currently, I'm leading on that as a union, from the union perspective. We're working alongside them to lobby the government to help fund the reduction in tuition fees as well. We do have more information about that on our website if you want to check out our full statement, as well as to see the sort of actions that we're taking towards that.
Great, thanks, Vicky. And our final pre-submitted question is to Pat, which reads, "Hi, I was just wondering what Kent Union think about the recent change in loyalty discount for students going straight from studying undergraduate at Kent to postgraduate. I understand there is still some help available to apply for, but I was just interested in why this change has been made. For a lot of students, I think one of the incentives to stay as their undergraduate university instead of experiencing somewhere else is the commonly known loyalty discount. So do you know why this is? Why this has stopped now?"
Yeah, thanks, Connor. So yeah, naturally, we're a bit disappointed that students and obviously us at Kent Union weren't consulted in the decision. So actually, it only came to our attention when this question came in. We've since followed up on it. We are aware there are new funding and scholarships options available, including Kent Alumni Tuition Fee Discount Scholarship, and a new postgraduate loyalty award system is being worked on by the university. And we're now just sort of pushing to see if we can get more information there and more involvement in that process. So that's all we can tell you for now, I'm afraid.
Brilliant. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Pat. I'll now open up the floor for any additional questions anyone might have for our trustees. Could I just ask that anyone who wishes to ask a question, just raise your hand now. And I will start off by going to Mike.
Thanks, Connor. I have a question for Aisha, actually. I just wanted to know what time she gets off tonight. Just wondered if she'd be up for a date. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Aisha?
No, I'm not available. But thank you. The floor will not be fielding any relevant questions.
Thank you, Aisha. Can any other questions for our trustees at all?
Is she still single? About 10 years? Is the offer still on the table?
Mike, I'm afraid I can't field any more questions like that to our trustees, I'm afraid. I can only field questions on strategic matters, I'm afraid. Any other questions for our trustees on strategic matters? I'll just double check I'm not missing any hands. Oh, brilliant. So I'll now go to Timo.
I don't know who this should be addressed to, but I want to ask why it took so long for the student union to approve contracts by sports societies, and what is done to improve that situation in the future in order to make it possible for sports societies to actually run before lockdown happens, as in the past.
Thank you, Timo. Is there one of the officers wants to answer that potentially?
I believe I could answer that. I didn't hear the beginning to it. I'm not sure if it was internet or whatever. Could you please repeat it? I'm ever so sorry.
Oh, of course. I want to ask why it takes so long for the student union to improve contracts by sports societies with other clubs or facilities to be hosted, specifically in the case I know about for the rowing society, as due to that it wasn't possible to actually run much before lockdown happens, despite having quite early submitted a contract for approval.
Yeah, I believe I'll be able to answer on this. I would like to preface by saying, in the COVID situation, we have had to have furlough for a lot of our staff members, and having over 250 groups in certain situations We accept the fact that we're going to have a long response time, and we do apologise for that. On the topic of rowing, this has actually been a back and forth for quite some time now, even before I believe I was elected. But it's an interesting partnership we have with other. I believe this is in relationship to the King's School, I believe, or am I wrong in that regard?
Yes, like not that case. For me, like this year, I'm new to the university and society, and we were informed that the society submitted a contract for approval in April, I believe, for the new facilities in Medway, and we weren't able to actually go out and row for a long time because the union hadn't approved that contract until lockdown happened again, which kind of cuts down any rowing time.
Yeah, I understand that. It was a health and safety concern, I believe, was the reason we couldn't approve the contract, not to mention much of the back and forth, as well as the relationship with Kingsall when dealing with certain members of the society from previous years. From what I gather, the relationship with certain individuals from the mentor side of things, I believe, or caretakers, was a bit unsavory of students, and Kent Union was hesitant on re-signing a contract that may have people who didn't have our students' best interests at heart. I hope that answers your question.
Sorry, can I just ask a follow-up?
Of course, by all means.
Re-signing, like to my information, it was with the new club. So was it mainly the health and safety reasons, or like because like it's a new club, the contract was for? What was the issue about re-signing?
It was when you say new club, do you mean new society or new facility?
New facility in Medway with a new rowing club and not in Canterbury anymore.
Oh, ever so sorry, I believe I may have got it mixed up with sailing. But yeah, I believe that was simply a case of logistics, and an invoice for the contract went missing a couple of times, and it wasn't an error on our behalf or Kent Sports. It happened to be on King's School, and we've been chasing her for ever so long. I wish I could pull a coordinator from Kent Union in here to tell you about it, but unfortunately we haven't heard anything of it yet.
Does that answer your question, Timo?
Yeah, I think as far as possible, and yeah, hopefully within the future it being different.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's something that can be picked up with the activities team outside of the meeting. Thank you for your question. I'll now go to Paul next.
Hi guys. I don't know who to pose the question to, but it's regarding response to emails. Now, I've emailed the union a number of times from sort of personal queries and that sort of stuff. And I've made a note here on back in August, October, and November of last year, I sent emails. I never got a response to any. So I want to sort of understand what's going on there. If you could explain, please.
Thank you, Paul. Vicky?
Yeah, obviously we can't get into details or anything like that, but the sort of times that you're speaking of is sort of when we started to introduce our furlough scheme. And obviously at the top of the meeting, Connor said that we can't go into exact details about staff and specific situations, which is unfortunate. But yeah, we've had a lot of staff on furlough, so a lot of them have only been working a couple of days a week, which often means that some emails do fall through the cracks, and we do appreciate it when students send a follow-up email just to remind us to get back to you. I'm sure that in most of the cases, it's either just been sort of, again, missed between the cracks or been passed on to another staff member who maybe is no longer with us or who has just been on furlough. But I'm sure that we can follow up to make sure that your emails are responded to.
Oh, okay. So do you want me to follow up these emails again back with the union so I can get them addressed, or what's the best course of action here then?
Yeah, if you could resend it, that would be fantastic. We're sort of starting to see our staff come back over the next month or so. So hopefully we'll have more capacity to get back to you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll be grateful for that. That's my query answered. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. I'll now go to Elizabeth.
It can't just be me who thinks Keir Starmer is just a massive Tory in red clothing?
That isn't my question.
Sorry. Was that sorry, was that Elizabeth? Or was someone else speaking?
Hi, that wasn't me, if that's the reason. Sorry. Is it okay to ask my question?
No, that's fine. Apologies for that, Elizabeth. Go for it.
So I was wondering, obviously due to these unprecedented times, many students haven't really engaged in the extracurriculars of our Kent Uni, and I was wondering what's Kent Union's plan for possibly engaging students more next academic term and making sure people get the most out of their uni experience.
Thank you. Aisha, do you want to take that one?
Brilliant, thank you. Trying to find the hands up button. So thank you very much for your question, Elizabeth. You're completely right. We've really noticed that people are struggling to engage in various things during lockdown. And so we have some plans for getting activities up and running again in term 3, especially where we're trying to help facilitate student groups to run their own activities. But we are also looking to collaborate with the university to make summer school type activities. And you can find information that will be updating you regarding Kent Summer, which is our current scheme to allow students to get activities and things up and running again, essentially get the ball rolling to provide a student experience that the majority of us have lost out on during the COVID pandemic.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, thank you for your question, Elizabeth. Are there any other questions for our trustees at all? Neville.
Look, Jurgen Klopp has made a lot of signings.
Okay. Do you want to complete your question, Neville?
I think he was missing.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I'll now check again. Is there any other questions to our trustees at all? If you could raise your hands now. Okay, I don't see any additional hands. If anyone does have any further questions at all, we will obviously have limited availability in the union executive meeting following afterwards. So that will be another opportunity for you to ask any questions of our officers or your reps as well. Brilliant. So if we don't have any more questions, I'll move on to formally close the meeting. So thank you everyone for all of your questions and to our Board of Trustees for your responses. I'll now formally close the members part of the meeting and we'll now move on to the union executive meeting. Thank you everyone.